Ladies and gentlemen, a blessed morning to you all. Each sunrise is God's whisper, a gentle reminder that you have another chance to love, to forgive, to rise, and to walk with faith. When you begin your day with God, you don't just wake up, you awaken. You awaken your soul to peace, your heart to purpose, and your spirit to power. Because every morning spent with God becomes the foundation for miracles yet unseen. When you open your eyes to a new day, the first breath you take is already a gift from God, a silent reminder that your story is still being written and His grace has carried you into another sunrise. Begin each day by surrendering your plans to God's will, because in that surrender lies the greatest power you will ever know. Too many people rise each morning carrying the burdens of yesterday, trying to control every outcome, forcing life to fit into their limited plans. But the truth, my dear friend, is that the moment you release control and allow God to lead, your day takes on a divine rhythm, a heavenly order that no human effort can produce. When you start your morning by saying, "Lord, not my will, but yours be done," you are stepping out of the chaos of human striving and stepping into the calm assurance of divine purpose. You see, surrendering to God does not mean giving up on your dreams. It means placing those dreams into the hands of the one who knows how to bring them to life. It is trusting that even when the path ahead seems uncertain, He already sees the destination. Many times, we wake up and immediately begin to plan, to worry, to think about what must be done, what could go wrong, or who might disappoint us. But when you surrender, you begin with stillness. You begin with acknowledgement that before the world demands your energy, before people require your attention, before challenges appear, you belong first to God. That sacred moment of surrender creates a shield around you. It prepares your spirit to meet the world not with anxiety, but with peace, not with fear, but with faith. Each morning, as the sun rises, God paints the sky in colors of hope to remind you that His mercies are new every day. When you surrender to His will, you are saying, "Lord, guide my steps. Help me to see what you see. Help me to trust your timing." This simple act changes everything because surrender turns ordinary mornings into moments of divine alignment. It is in that quiet hour, before the noise begins, that God whispers His direction. He speaks not through thunder, but through peace. And when you listen, when you truly open your heart, you begin to understand that nothing in your day is random. Every delay, every encounter, every open door, and even every closed one becomes part of His plan for your good. Surrendering your plans each morning also frees you from the pressure of perfection. You no longer have to wake up wondering how you will handle everything, because you realize that you don't have to handle everything. You are not meant to carry the weight of the world on your shoulders. You are meant to walk beside the one who already holds the world in His hands. When you wake up and kneel in prayer, saying, "Father, I give this day to you," you are releasing control over what you cannot change and inviting divine wisdom to work through you in what you can. That shift of perspective transforms your entire approach to life. You stop chasing outcomes and start trusting processes. You stop worrying about what you can't fix and start thanking God for what He's already preparing behind the scenes. The act of surrender is not weakness, it is spiritual strength. It is saying, "I don't know what today holds, but I know who holds today." That faith gives you peace in uncertainty, courage in adversity, and calm in confusion. It means that when challenges come, and they will, you won't be shaken because you already placed the day in God's hands before it even began. You have declared that He is in charge, that His wisdom is higher, and His vision is clearer. You start to live with a confidence that cannot be taken away by circumstances, because your foundation is no longer the shifting sand of control, but the solid rock of trust. Imagine how different your life feels when each morning begins not with worry, but with worship. When instead of grabbing your phone, you lift your hands. When instead of rushing into tasks, you pause and breathe in His presence. That is surrender in motion. You begin to notice that your energy flows differently. The same tasks that used to feel heavy begin to feel lighter because you are no longer operating in your strength alone. God's presence flows through you, and His grace sustains you in every moment. You start to see small miracles throughout the day, a conversation that lifts your spirit, a door that opens at the right time, a problem that somehow resolves itself. None of it is coincidence. It is the evidence of divine partnership. When you surrender to God's will in the morning, you also begin to understand the meaning of peace that surpasses understanding. You stop fighting against time, against people, against yourself. You start to flow in the rhythm of grace. And when challenges arise, as they surely will, you respond differently. You no longer panic, you pray. You no longer complain, you confess trust. You no longer resist, you rest. Because your spirit knows that everything that comes to you has already passed through the hands of a loving Father. Some mornings you will wake up weary, your heart heavy with things unseen. You might not feel strong enough to face the day, but even then, surrendering your plans to God gives you strength beyond what you can explain. It is in those moments of weakness that His power becomes perfect. You may say, "Lord, I don't know how to move forward." And He whispers back, "You don't have to know. Just walk with me." That is the beauty of beginning your day with surrender. It is not about having all the answers. It is about trusting the one who does. Every great miracle begins with a moment of surrender. When you start your morning by letting go of control, you are clearing space for God to move. You are saying, "Lord, I trust you to take this day and make it what you want it to be." And somehow, through that simple act, He begins to weave beauty from the threads of your obedience. You notice that the day unfolds with a kind of grace you didn't plan but deeply needed. You encounter peace where there once was panic, patience where there once was frustration, purpose where there once was confusion. Surrendering your plans to God's will is not just a prayer, it is a daily practice of faith. It is reminding yourself that you are part of a story much bigger than your own. It is saying, "God, use me today as your vessel. Let my words carry kindness. Let my hands bring healing. Let my steps walk in purpose." And as you live this way, you begin to witness transformation, not just in your circumstances, but in your spirit. The world around you may remain the same, but the world within you changes entirely. You develop a quiet confidence, a steady peace, a radiant joy that cannot be shaken by what happens outside of you. Each morning is a fresh opportunity to align your life with heaven's plan. When you wake up, do not rush into the noise. Instead, take a holy pause. Lift your heart to the heavens and surrender everything, your hopes, your worries, your plans, your pain. Let God take it all, for He knows what to do with it far better than you ever could. In that moment of surrender, something sacred happens. You are no longer driven by fear. You are led by faith. You no longer chase after things. Blessings begin to find you. There will be days when surrender feels difficult. Your human heart will want to hold on, to control, to predict. But remember, control is an illusion that robs you of peace. Surrender is the truth that restores it. The one who wakes up and says, "Lord, this day belongs to you," walks through life with the assurance that no matter what comes, they are not alone. God walks before them, behind them, beside them, within them. And when you live like that, every sunrise becomes sacred, every breath becomes a prayer, And every day becomes a new chance to witness the divine in the ordinary. Prayer aligns your spirit with divine strength and direction because prayer is not only a moment of speaking to God, it is the sacred act of tuning your heart to the frequency of heaven. Every morning when you bow your head, when you whisper your first words to God before the noise of the day begins, something powerful happens within your soul. You move from confusion to clarity, from weakness to strength, from human limitation to divine empowerment. Prayer is the connection between your frail humanity and God's unshakable eternity. It is the invisible bridge that carries your heart from fear to faith, from doubt to trust, from wandering to purpose. When you pray, you are not just asking for things, you are aligning yourself with the one who holds all things together. The truth is, we cannot walk through life guided by our own understanding. Our minds are limited, our emotions unstable, and our perceptions often clouded by what we see rather than what truly is. But prayer cuts through the fog of human uncertainty and leads you into the light of divine wisdom. It is through prayer that you receive not just answers, but direction. Not just strength for the moment, but endurance for the journey. Every word you speak in faith sends a signal to heaven, and every time you listen in stillness, heaven answers back with peace. When your spirit is aligned with God through prayer, confusion begins to fade. You begin to see things as He sees them, not through the lens of fear, but through the eyes of faith. When you begin your day in prayer, you are not just performing a ritual, you are engaging in a sacred conversation. You are saying, God, guide my steps. Let my words bring life. Let my thoughts be pure. Let my actions reflect your love. And in that surrender, God begins to align your spirit with His will. He takes your scattered emotions and brings them into order. He takes your restless heart and fills it with calm. He takes your uncertainty and replaces it with divine direction. That is why prayer is not about eloquence. It is about honesty. You don't have to impress God with perfect words. He is not moved by your vocabulary. He is moved by your sincerity. When you pray from the depth of your heart, when you pour out your fears, your hopes, your tears, your gratitude, He listens, and in that moment, the connection between heaven and your soul becomes unbreakable. Prayer is also the source of spiritual strength because it reminds you that you are not walking alone. In this world, it is easy to feel overwhelmed by expectations, by failures, by the weight of responsibilities. But when you pray, you remind yourself that the strength you need does not come from you, it comes through you from God. Every time you pray, you invite His power to dwell within you. You may feel tired, but prayer recharges you. You may feel lost, but prayer redirects you. You may feel broken, but prayer restores you. It is the quiet moment in prayer that often prepares you for the loudest battles of the day. When your spirit is aligned through prayer, you start noticing that even the smallest decisions begin to carry a sense of divine timing. You stop rushing, you stop forcing, you start flowing. The conversations you have, the choices you make, the opportunities that appear, they begin to line up in ways that make you realize God has been orchestrating every detail behind the scenes. That's what prayer does. It opens your eyes to the invisible hand of God guiding your visible life. You begin to see that things you once called coincidences were actually divine appointments. You recognize that delays were not denials, but redirections towards something greater. You start to live not in reaction to circumstances, but in response to God's whispers. Prayer also teaches patience. When you align your spirit with divine direction, you learn that answers don't always come instantly, but they always come purposefully. God doesn't delay because he has forgotten you. He delays because he is preparing you. And when your spirit is in tune with him through prayer, you can wait without worry. You can trust without trembling. You can rest while the world rushes around you. That kind of peace is not human, it is divine, and it can only be found in the presence of God. Prayer anchors you in that presence. It reminds you that no storm is too strong when your soul is rooted in the stillness of his voice. There are mornings when life feels heavy, when you wake up with burdens too deep for words. On those mornings, prayer becomes the language of your tears. You may not have words, but your heart speaks louder than your lips. God understands the prayers you can't articulate. Every sigh, every tear, every silent cry becomes a message sent directly to his heart. And as you sit in that sacred space, you realize that strength is not the absence of struggle, it is the presence of God in the midst of it. Prayer doesn't always change your situation immediately, but it changes you. And when you change, the situation begins to shift in ways you never imagined. Prayer also aligns your thoughts with truth. The world around you will always try to feed you fear, doubt, and discouragement, but prayer renews your mind daily. It reminds you who you are and whose you are. It silences the lies of the enemy with the promises of God. Through prayer, you begin to see yourself not as weak or insignificant, but as a vessel of divine purpose. You start to think differently, speak differently, live differently. The anxiety that once controlled you loses its grip because prayer strengthens your spiritual identity. You stop reacting to problems and start responding with faith. You stop speaking defeat and start declaring victory. When you pray each morning, your spirit receives divine instruction for the day ahead. God begins to reveal things that others may not see. He warns you of distractions. He nudges you toward opportunities. He gives you discernment to know when to move and when to be still. That's why a person who prays is never truly lost. Even when they can't see the whole path, they know they are being guided step by step. Prayer is not a one-way communication. It is a dialogue where you speak and listen, where you open your heart and receive divine counsel. And as you practice this daily, you begin to walk in divine rhythm. Your timing becomes aligned with heaven's timing. You begin to speak words that carry power because they are born from intimacy with God. There is also an unexplainable strength that comes from prayer. It's the kind of strength that doesn't make sense to the world. When others fall apart, you stand firm. When others panic, you stay calm. When others give up, you press on. It's not because you are stronger. It's because you are connected. You are drawing from a source that never runs dry. The more you pray, the more your spirit becomes anchored in that source. You begin to face life not from a place of fear, but from a place of faith-filled authority. You realize that the same power that raised Christ from the dead lives in you, and that awareness gives you boldness to overcome whatever the day may bring. Through prayer, you also cultivate humility. It reminds you that you don't have all the answers, and that's okay, because you know the one who does. You stop relying solely on your intellect or your experience and start depending on divine wisdom. Prayer aligns your ego with grace. It breaks the pride that says, "I can handle this alone," and replaces it with the truth that says, "I can do all things through Christ who strengthens me." That humility opens the door to more blessings because God always elevates those who kneel before him. When your life is aligned through prayer, even your reactions to people change. You begin to love with more patience, to speak with more kindness, to forgive with more grace. Prayer softens your heart and sharpens your discernment. It teaches you to respond with compassion even when others test your peace. It fills your words with gentleness and your presence with calm. That's what happens when you carry divine alignment within you. People can feel it. Your peace becomes contagious. Your faith becomes visible. Your light becomes impossible to ignore. Prayer also keeps you sensitive to God's voice. In the busyness of life, it's easy to miss His whispers, but a praying heart remains tuned to His frequency. You begin to sense when He is leading you to pause, to act, to speak, or to stay silent. You start to understand that not every battle deserves your energy and not every opportunity is meant for you. Through prayer, you receive discernment that protects your peace and directs your purpose. You move from reacting impulsively to responding intentionally. That's how divine direction feels. It's not loud, it's not forced, it's gentle, it's clear, and it always leads you closer to peace. And the more you pray, the more your confidence grows not in yourself, but in God's unshakable faithfulness. You stop asking, "What if it doesn't work?" and start declaring, "Even if it doesn't, I will still trust Him." That shift in perspective changes everything. You no longer live by sight, you live by faith. You stop fearing the unknown because you trust the one who already knows. You wake up each morning knowing that whatever the day brings, prayer has already gone before you. You have already aligned your spirit with divine strength and direction, and that alignment carries you through every trial, every challenge, every victory. Prayer is not just an action, it is a lifestyle, a posture of the heart. When you make it your daily rhythm, your spirit becomes steady, your mind becomes clear, and your heart becomes fearless. You begin to walk with quiet confidence, knowing that you are guided, guarded, and grounded in divine truth. Prayer is not the last resort, it is the first response. It is the moment you choose to align yourself not with fear, not with the world, but with God's unchanging presence that goes before you, walks beside you, and strengthens you from within. Gratitude in the morning opens doors to peace and favor because it shifts your perspective from what is lacking to what has already been given. Each day we are surrounded by blessings, many so ordinary that we overlook them: the warmth of the sun, the breath in our lungs, the roof over our heads, the people who care for us. When you begin your day with a heart of gratitude, you are acknowledging the source of all good things and inviting God to multiply them in ways that exceed your imagination. Gratitude is not simply a polite acknowledgement. It is a powerful spiritual practice that prepares your soul to receive the abundance that God desires to pour into your life. It is the lens through which the ordinary becomes extraordinary, the mundane becomes sacred, and the overlooked becomes treasured. When you cultivate gratitude in the morning, you are choosing to focus on what is right rather than what is wrong. Many people wake up and immediately think of their problems, their responsibilities, their unmet desires. They start their day burdened by worry and fear, blind to the blessings that are already present. But gratitude changes that narrative. It begins with simple recognition, a thankful thought for waking up, a prayer of appreciation for life itself, a moment to reflect on the people who love you, the work you are able to do, and the opportunities before you. This conscious acknowledgement creates a fertile ground for peace to grow in your heart and favor to flow into your life. Gratitude also strengthens your spiritual connection. When you begin your day by thanking God for what He has already done, you are attuning your spirit to His presence. It is a declaration that you see God's hand at work, that you trust His goodness, and that you honor His provision. That awareness opens your heart to His guidance throughout the day. You begin to notice divine interventions in ordinary circumstances, subtle shifts in situations that might otherwise pass unnoticed, and moments of clarity that provide direction and wisdom. Gratitude sharpens your spiritual sensitivity and opens your eyes to the hidden blessings that are often disguised as challenges. The power of morning gratitude extends beyond the spiritual. It has a profound psychological and emotional effect on your life. When you focus on what you are thankful for, your brain releases chemicals that promote well-being, reduce stress, and cultivate a sense of joy. You start your day with a mindset of abundance rather than scarcity. Instead of seeing obstacles, you see opportunities. Instead of seeing limits, you see possibilities. That shift in mindset is critical because it colors every interaction, every decision, and every response throughout the day. A heart filled with gratitude attracts favor because it radiates positivity and trust, qualities that draw people and circumstances toward alignment with God's blessings. Gratitude in the morning also fosters resilience. Life will inevitably present trials, setbacks, and disappointments, but a heart trained in gratitude responds differently to adversity. Rather than succumbing to despair, it finds reasons to trust, to hope, and to persevere. It recognizes that even in difficulty, there are lessons, there are opportunities for growth, and there are moments of grace. When you practice gratitude first thing in the morning, you are equipping your spirit to face the unexpected with courage and composure. You are establishing a foundation of peace that cannot be shaken by external circumstances because your focus is rooted in God's faithfulness rather than the fleeting conditions of life. Morning gratitude also cultivates humility, reminding you that life is not solely about your efforts, but also about the divine orchestration of events and relationships. When you pause to give thanks, you acknowledge that your successes, your opportunities, and even your breath come not merely from your own doing, but from God's provision. That recognition keeps pride at bay and fosters a spirit of dependence on Him. It reminds you that your life is part of a larger story, one in which grace and favor are active, guiding forces. A humble heart that begins each day with gratitude is more likely to make decisions aligned with integrity, love, and service, which in turn attracts further favor and blessings. Another aspect of morning gratitude is its ability to transform relationships. When your heart is filled with thankfulness, you begin to see the value in the people around you. You notice their efforts, their kindness, their presence in ways that might otherwise go unappreciated. This awareness encourages expressions of appreciation, words of affirmation, and acts of love that strengthen connections and build trust. Gratitude begets generosity. A thankful heart naturally extends grace, understanding, and support to others. This relational harmony creates an environment in which God's favor can flow more freely as you become a channel of blessing to those around you. Gratitude also aligns your actions with divine timing. When you are thankful, you are less likely to rush or force outcomes. You develop patience, understanding that God's timing is perfect and that He is orchestrating circumstances for your ultimate good. Gratitude opens your heart to acceptance, allowing you to see the unfolding of life as a series of opportunities orchestrated by a loving Creator. By acknowledging and appreciating what you already have, you stop resisting the natural flow of life and begin to cooperate with it. This cooperation invites divine favor and often leads to opportunities that you might not have been able to recognize in a hurried, ungrateful state. Practicing gratitude in the morning also amplifies your spiritual authority. A thankful heart recognizes God as the source of all power, wisdom, and provision. When you start your day with acknowledgement of His sovereignty, you approach life with confidence, knowing that you are not navigating challenges alone. Gratitude becomes a declaration of trust and an invitation for God to guide, protect, and bless you. It strengthens your faith, allowing you to step into situations with assurance rather than anxiety, knowing that His presence accompanies you in every endeavor. Furthermore, gratitude encourages mindfulness. In the act of giving thanks, You pause to notice the present moment rather than dwelling on the past or worrying about the future. You become aware of the simple joys that fill your life, from the warmth of sunlight to the sound of birds, from the comfort of a loved one's voice to the satisfaction of completing a task well done. This mindfulness enhances your ability to live fully in each moment, appreciating the richness of life and the divine orchestration that makes it possible. By starting your morning with gratitude, you cultivate a habit of noticing blessings throughout the day, which strengthens your resilience, joy, and sense of purpose. Morning gratitude also transforms your challenges into opportunities for growth. When you maintain a thankful heart, you begin to see difficulties not as obstacles, but as lessons and stepping stones. You recognize that each trial carries the potential to refine your character, expand your understanding, and deepen your faith. Gratitude allows you to view setbacks through the lens of divine purpose rather than personal failure, and this perspective enables you to respond with courage, wisdom, and perseverance. Over time, this practice of gratitude fosters a mindset that is prepared for success, capable of weathering adversity, and receptive to the unexpected blessings that life brings. When you cultivate gratitude each morning, you also strengthen your spiritual vision. A thankful heart sees beyond the immediate circumstances and recognizes the hand of God at work in every detail. You begin to notice patterns of provision, moments of divine timing, and signs of favor that might otherwise go unnoticed. This spiritual clarity allows you to make wiser choices, respond with grace in difficult situations, and trust in the unfolding of God's plan. Gratitude becomes a lens through which you perceive the world, and through that lens, life appears richer, fuller, and imbued with divine purpose. In addition, morning gratitude fosters emotional stability. When you start your day acknowledging the blessings in your life, your mood shifts from fear, frustration, or discontent to hope, peace, and joy. This emotional equilibrium enhances your ability to navigate relationships, work challenges, and personal goals with composure and effectiveness. It equips you to face the day with resilience, to respond rather than react, and to maintain a sense of inner peace regardless of external circumstances. Gratitude strengthens your emotional core, providing a foundation of stability upon which faith, purpose, and favor can flourish. Gratitude in the morning is also an act of worship. By thanking God for life, breath, health, relationships, and opportunities, you acknowledge His sovereignty and goodness. This act of worship sets a tone for the day, aligning your thoughts, words, and actions with His will. It transforms your routine into a sacred practice, infusing each moment with spiritual significance. As you carry this heart of gratitude throughout your day, your interactions, decisions, and perspectives are influenced by a recognition of divine presence and favor, opening doors that might otherwise remain closed. Morning gratitude also cultivates hope. By focusing on what you have rather than what you lack, you create a mental and spiritual space for possibilities to emerge. Gratitude shifts your perspective from scarcity to abundance, from despair to expectation, and from worry to trust. This hopeful outlook energizes your actions, inspires those around you, and attracts opportunities that align with God's plan. It strengthens your resilience in the face of challenges and enhances your ability to perceive blessings in unexpected places. Gratitude becomes a lens through which the world is seen not as a series of obstacles, but as a landscape rich with potential and divine favor. Through daily morning gratitude, you also develop a legacy of positivity. Your thankful attitude influences your family, friends, colleagues, and community. It inspires others to recognize their own blessings and to approach life with a spirit of appreciation. Gratitude has a ripple effect, spreading peace, hope, and encouragement to those who encounter it. As you begin each day with thankfulness, you contribute to a culture of grace and favor, demonstrating that a heart aligned with God through gratitude creates an environment where blessings multiply, relationships flourish, and opportunities abound. Finally, morning gratitude invites divine favor in a way that is natural and effortless. When you are thankful, you acknowledge God's role in your life, you recognize His provision, and you position yourself to receive more. Favor often flows to those who live with a heart of appreciation, for they operate in alignment with the principles of faith, humility, and recognition of divine goodness. By starting your day with gratitude, you are not only enhancing your own life, but also becoming a conduit for blessings to flow to others. This simple yet profound practice transforms ordinary mornings into sacred encounters, ordinary actions into extraordinary opportunities, and ordinary hearts into vessels of peace, joy, and favor. When God is first, everything else finds its rightful place because life only flows in harmony when the Creator is at the center. Too often, we wake up and immediately allow the world, its demands, and its distractions to dictate our priorities. We chase deadlines, obligations, and fleeting pleasures, thinking that managing them will bring fulfillment and peace. But the truth is that no human effort, no amount of planning or striving can produce the deep sense of purpose, direction, and satisfaction that comes from placing God first. When you make Him the priority of your morning, you establish a foundation upon which everything else can be built. A compass that aligns your steps with the path He has designed, and a filter through which your choices are made with clarity and wisdom. To put God first means to start each day consciously with Him. It means that before you check your phone, before you answer emails, before you meet the expectations of the world, you pause and devote your attention to Him. It is the intentional act of acknowledging that He is the source of your life, your strength, and your wisdom. This practice transforms not only your morning, but your entire perspective on life. When God is first, your priorities become clearer. You no longer chase what is trivial or fleeting. You focus on what truly matters, on integrity, love, service, faith, and obedience. This alignment brings a natural order to your day, as decisions and actions that once seemed difficult become simple and guided by divine purpose. Placing God first also influences your inner peace. Many people wake up anxious, hurried, or burdened, trying to navigate their day without a sense of guidance or assurance. But when your first moments are spent with God, a calm descends upon your spirit. You recognize that you are not alone, that you are being led, and that every challenge or opportunity you will encounter has already passed through His hands. This peace is not dependent on circumstances. It is a product of your alignment with Him. The world may remain chaotic, but your soul remains anchored. That anchoring allows you to face difficulties with a steady heart, make choices with confidence, and interact with others from a place of strength rather than reaction. Making God first reshapes your decision-making process. Without a divine point of reference, life can feel like a series of random choices, influenced by external pressures, fleeting desires, or the opinions of others. But when God occupies the center of your life, every decision is filtered through a lens of faith. You ask, what does God want me to do? How does this align with His will? Suddenly, choices that once seemed complicated become guided and clear. Opportunities are discerned not merely by potential gain or ease, but by alignment with divine purpose. This perspective prevents distractions from taking priority and allows your actions to contribute to a larger, more meaningful plan. Placing God first also transforms your relationships. When your heart is aligned with Him, you begin to see others through a lens of love, patience, and grace. You stop seeking validation from people and instead seek approval from God, which changes the dynamics of your interactions. You become more forgiving, more understanding, and more generous. Conflicts that once consumed your energy are approached with wisdom and humility. You are able to offer guidance without judgment, support without enabling, and love without expectation. Relationships become less about control or gain and more about nurturing, healing, and reflecting God's character. Prioritizing God also reshapes your sense of purpose. When He is first, you begin to understand that life is not about random achievements or societal standards of success, but about fulfilling the unique calling He has placed on your life. Each task, responsibility, and opportunity is seen not just in terms of immediate results, but as part of a greater narrative. You are able to work with focus, passion, and intention because your actions are rooted in purpose rather than pressure. This understanding brings satisfaction that cannot be found through worldly accomplishment alone. Even mundane tasks take on significance when they are done in alignment with God's guidance. When God is first, your priorities naturally fall into their rightful place. Work becomes meaningful instead of overwhelming. Relationships become nurturing instead of draining, and challenges become opportunities instead of obstacles. You begin to see that the struggle to control life diminishes when you allow God to lead. You are able to surrender the illusion of control and embrace divine direction. This surrender does not make you passive. It makes you empowered. You act with confidence because you know that your efforts are supported and guided by the Creator of all things. Placing God first also protects your heart from the negative influences of the world. The daily noise of society, media, and even well-meaning people can easily sway your priorities if you allow them to dominate your mind and spirit. But when you dedicate your first moments of the day to God, you establish a spiritual boundary that centers your thoughts on truth and purpose. Your mind becomes a fertile ground for wisdom, discernment, and positivity. Your emotions become stabilized, and your focus sharpens. The influences that once caused stress, distraction, or confusion now have less power over you because your foundation rests in the eternal rather than the temporary. Starting your day with God first also nurtures gratitude and contentment. When your morning begins with acknowledgement of His sovereignty, provision, and love, you naturally recognize and appreciate the blessings already present in your life. Gratitude flows from alignment with God, and this grateful heart attracts favor, opens doors, and fosters resilience. Contentment arises not from achieving every goal or controlling every outcome, but from trusting that God's plan is perfect and sufficient. You begin to find joy in the process of life rather than constantly seeking it in external results. Making God first influences your productivity in profound ways. When you operate under divine guidance, your time, energy, and efforts are focused on what truly matters. You become less scattered, less reactive, and less distracted by trivial pursuits. Tasks that once felt overwhelming are approached with clarity and purpose. You are able to prioritize what has eternal significance, align your work with values of integrity and service, and operate with wisdom rather than exhaustion. Productivity becomes a natural byproduct of divine alignment, not a source of stress or anxiety. When God is first, your perception of challenges changes. Difficulties that once seemed insurmountable are reframed as opportunities for growth, learning, and reliance on divine strength. You begin to recognize that obstacles are not necessarily setbacks, but stepping stones, designed to prepare, teach, and strengthen you. The fear of uncertainty diminishes because you are walking in alignment with the one who knows the end from the beginning. This perspective nurtures courage, resilience, and patience, allowing you to navigate life's unpredictability with faith rather than frustration. Placing God first also inspires integrity. Decisions are guided not by convenience, peer pressure, or fear of judgment, but by obedience to divine principles. Honesty, humility, and ethical conduct become natural expressions of a heart aligned with God. You act consistently, whether in private or public, because your focus is on pleasing Him rather than satisfying fleeting worldly standards. This integrity strengthens relationships, builds trust, and positions you to receive blessings that are unavailable to those who compromise their values. When you prioritize God in the morning, you develop a rhythm that shapes your entire day. Every thought, word, and action is filtered through awareness of His presence. You become intentional, deliberate, and reflective. Decisions are made with consideration rather than impulse, responses are measured rather than reactive, and actions are rooted in faith rather than fear. This rhythm cultivates a life of coherence and harmony, where your spiritual, emotional, and practical aspects operate in alignment rather than in conflict. Placing God first also enhances your spiritual discernment. You become more sensitive to His guidance, more aware of subtle promptings, and better equipped to distinguish between distractions and true opportunities. Your intuition is sharpened, and your judgment is informed by wisdom rather than impulse. You begin to anticipate challenges, recognize blessings, and respond proactively rather than reactively. This discernment provides clarity in decision-making, steadiness in crises, and confidence in uncertainty. When God is first, your outlook on success and achievement changes. You understand that success is not measured by wealth, status, or accolades, but by alignment with His will, the impact you have on others, and the fulfillment of your God-given purpose. Achievements are celebrated not as personal triumphs, but as evidence of divine partnership. Failure is reframed as a learning experience, a step in a larger plan, rather than a reflection of inadequacy. This perspective reduces anxiety, builds resilience, and nurtures contentment. Placing God first in the morning also cultivates humility and dependence. You recognize that your abilities, opportunities, and resources are gifts entrusted to you, not entitlements earned through your efforts alone. This awareness fosters a heart of gratitude, generosity, and service. You are less likely to act out of pride, self-interest, or fear, and more likely to act with love, wisdom, and faith. Humility opens the door for divine favor, protection, and guidance in ways that human effort alone cannot achieve. When God is first, your interactions with others are transformed. You approach people with grace, patience, and understanding. You are less reactive to provocation and more responsive to need. You prioritize relationships that matter, let go of unnecessary conflicts, and invest in connections that reflect divine love. This alignment brings peace not only to your heart, but also to the environment around you. People are drawn to the calm, confidence, and clarity that come from a life centered on God, and your presence becomes a source of blessing to others. Placing God first also nurtures long-term vision. When your priorities are aligned with His, you are less focused on immediate gratification or temporary success, and more attuned to enduring impact and eternal significance. Decisions are made with foresight, Planning is guided by wisdom, and actions are taken with purpose. This long-term perspective reduces impulsivity, enhances strategic thinking, and allows you to navigate life with patience and persistence, trusting that each step is part of a greater design. Finally, when God is first, everything else naturally falls into its rightful place. Your priorities, actions, relationships, and mindset all align with divine purpose. Chaos gives way to order, confusion gives way to clarity, and stress gives way to peace. Life becomes less about struggle and more about flow, less about control and more about trust, less about worry and more about faith. Every day becomes a testament to the power of beginning with God, a demonstration that when He occupies the first place, every other aspect of life is guided, protected, and blessed.